On March 14th, 2025, William J. Pulte was sworn in as the fifth director of the U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency following his nomination by President Donald Trump and his bipartisan confirmation by the U.S. Senate. In this role, Pulte also chairs Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and oversees the federal home loan banks. Before his appointment, Bill Pulte had a long-standing career in home building, housing products, and community development. In 2011, Pulte founded Pulte Capital Partners, LLC, an investment firm that focuses on building and housing products. As the head of FHFA, Bill Pulte has taken very seriously President Trump's mandate to expand affordable and available housing for the American people. He's emerged as a particularly articulate critic of Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, who seems to be softening finally to the idea of cutting interest rates, despite the fact that the two measures that Powell is supposed to use in determining whether rates should be cut, unemployment and inflation, are either at the same level or lower than they were the last four times the Federal Reserve cut rates. But it is in the area of enforcing mortgage laws and fighting mortgage fraud that Bill Pulte has really distinguished himself. Since taking this position, he has sent formal referrals with all of the documentation regarding a pattern of mortgage fraud by New York Attorney General Letitia James, Senator Adam Schiff of California, and most recently, Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Bill Pulte, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Thanks, Roger. Good to talk to you always.
I noticed today that Adam Schiff completely rejects your findings, saying that they are entirely inaccurate and false. Let's listen to Adam Schiff.
Mortgage company Fannie Mae says you're, quote, engaged in a sustained pattern of possible occupancy misrepresentation on several loans. Are these allegations true? How do you respond to them?
They're patently false, and the president knows it. In the housing agency, president's person, Pulte, knows it. He's essentially doing the president's bidding against me, against Letitia James, against this person on the Federal Reserve. Mortgage is their new weapon to go after their critics. But I've been very open about my residency, both in California and in Maryland, with my constituents and with the lenders. So there's no there there. But the common denominator is they will manufacture anything to go after their critics, after members of Congress to try to silence them, after John Bolton, after people on the Federal Reserve, after generals, after former presidents. They're investigating Comey and Clapper, the Obamas, the Clintons. Basically, it's free reign with a corrupt leadership at the Justice Department.
And just very quickly, will you cooperate with the investigation?
Oh, well, we have, and we've refuted their allegations. In fact, we put it in writing. But it doesn't matter. What matters to them is the intimidation campaign, and they're going to mount it against anyone who stands up to the president. But I'm not backing down, and I have to hope that others will stand up to this increasing authoritarian form of government.
Bill, that's what's called Alinskyism. That's where you accuse your opponents and your enemies of doing exactly what you yourself are doing. It is Adam Schiff who said that he had seen, quote, more than circumstantial evidence of Russian collusion with Donald Trump's 2016 campaign, but was never able to produce any because there was none. We now know this because of the declassified Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence. So you can always tell when Adam Schiff is lying. His lips are moving, but I'm going to let you respond to Adam Schiff's claim that your referral to the Justice Department of him for mortgage fraud is baseless.
Well, no one should commit fraud, and no one should be proud of committing fraud, and nobody should be proud of anything to do with fraud, whether it be mortgage fraud, wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud. You name it. And oftentimes when people commit mortgage fraud, they also commit wire fraud and bank fraud and all these other things. And I just don't understand why people can't understand that picture. I don't care whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, a wealthy person, somebody who's not wealthy, a prosecutor, a lawyer, a banker, you name it. If you commit mortgage fraud in this country, in President Trump's America, We're not going to tolerate it. And we're going to work our you-know-what off until we get either mortgage fraud eliminated or at least, 80-90% reduction in it, because it's just gotten totally out of control. And Roger, it's like a virus. And what often happens is people don't even know when they're sick because they get so used to defrauding people and lying to people with purposeful intent that they just think that it's fine, and it's not fine.
Well, I saw you in a great interview on Bloomberg the other day, and you pointed out that the documents from which you reach these conclusions are all public documents. They can all be found online by any citizen, so I decided to look myself. There is no question that Adam Schiff claimed that his condominium in Burbank, California was his principal legal residence. That allowed him to get a tax break in the state of California. It allowed him to qualify for a lower rate and a lower insurance rate. But then on his home in Potomac, Maryland, he also claimed that that was his principal legal residence, allowing him, once again, a state tax break, also allowing him to get a lower mortgage rate and a lower insurance rate. To me, that looks like an open and shut case of mortgage fraud. Do you think that the U.S. Justice Department will hold this congenital liar, conman, and huckster, Adam Schiff, will they hold him responsible?
Well, I'm the mortgage regulator, and so I'm going to kind of stay silent insofar as things that are not within the referral. However, I would say that, I've been very optimistic with Pam Bondi. She appointed somebody to really help lead this effort, and Ed Martin. And I'm very optimistic that to the extent that there is any breaking of the laws, and we believe that there is, and it depends on which case that you're referencing. Obviously, Fannie Mae's team came to a certain conclusion about Mr. Schiff. But in the Schiff matter, or in the Cook matter, or in many of the other matters, and we have many, many criminal referrals. It's not just, the ones that they like to talk about. They're the ones who like to talk about it. We don't even talk about them, frankly. I mean, we do because we have to get it out there and respond when people say things. But at the end of the day, the Department of Justice and the justice system will have to work, and I'm very confident that the prosecutors have the information that they need across all of our criminal referrals. And ultimately, people are innocent until proven guilty in our country, and we'll see where the facts go.
Yeah, I noticed in a Wall Street Journal editorial last week, you were criticized for enforcing the law when it comes to mortgage fraud. It's almost Kafkaesque. It's so ridiculous. In every one of these referrals, I've read them in detail. The most recent one, Lisa Cook, who claims that her residence in Ann Arbor, Michigan is her principal residence. And then only 2 weeks later, she applies for and gets a mortgage for a residence outside of Atlanta, and she says that is her principal home and her legal residence. Are these people, maybe you can't answer this, but I'll say it anyway. I think they are just so arrogant. They're so used to the two-tier justice system in which liberal Democrat elites under Biden, under Obama, could break the law at will. That list that Adam Schiff went through, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, the former president, every one of those people engaged in seditious conspiracy. Tulsi Gabbard has proven this with declassified documents. This includes Hillary Clinton. This isn't conjecture. This isn't investigative journalism. These are cold, hard facts. In these referrals that you have made, in your role as the head of FHFA, in fulfilling your responsibilities to identify and refer any citizen, regardless of how prominent or wealthy or important they may be or not, for mortgage fraud.
That's right. I mean, do they want me to see this stuff? They want me to see the stuff and not report it? I mean, I have an obligation to report it. So if it passes our tests, which, we obviously are very focused on, we're going to report it, and we're not going to be intimidated by any editorial boards or whatever. I just say one thing. We have this thing in this country people often refer to as blue collar and white collar and all this stuff. Look, if at the end of the day you go to a CVS in Chicago or in D.C. or you name it, anywhere in this country for the most part, if you go somewhere and you steal a razor blade out of a CVS, you're going to get arrested. One little razor blade. So why do the elite and the rich and the wealthy and the politically connected class feel that they can go and save, let's say it's even $500 on a mortgage, which obviously there's way more money involved in these mortgages in terms of savings than $500. But why do they feel entitled to get $500 that they're taking when you can't even go and steal a, $10, $12 razor out of CVS? It doesn't make any sense. And so I'll make a prediction, Roger, which I think that people will view mortgage fraud way more seriously in this country going forward as a result of all of our actions.
When we come back, I want to ask Bill Pulte, the director of FHFA, about the incredible $2.5 billion renovation to the Federal Reserve's palatial headquarters in Washington, D.C. Bill and his family have been in the construction business, as has President Trump, for many, many, many decades. I'm scratching my head about how you could possibly spend $2.5 billion in renovation. At the same time, you're denying the working families of America a cut in interest rates, which I think is due based on all of the measures that Chairman Jerome Powell is supposed to use. Bill, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, is overseeing a $2.5 billion renovation to the already palatial headquarters of the Federal Reserve on Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C. I saw his testimony before the United States Senate where he said that this renovation did not include private elevators for the Federal Reserve Board governors, a private dining room for the governors, no new marble, he said, no new fountains, no lavish roof garden. But then I went online, I looked at the plans, and the plan includes all of those things. So it appears to me like he lied to Congress under oath. But then additionally, that $2.5 billion number includes a 70% budget cost overrun. You're in the construction, your family's been in the construction industry for decades. I saw online where you went down personally to look at the renovations, saw you wearing a hard hat. What's going on here?
Well, it's funny you ask that because, one of the things they try to make it sound like is, it's normal to spend this type of money on something. It's not normal to spend this type of money. You could build an NFL stadium for way less than this, or at least equivalent. We're talking about an NFL stadium, and here we are, just a government building. It's totally crazy. But yes, I accompanied the president on his tour, and then I separately took a different tour on the exterior of the building, and I will tell you, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I think the scandal, Roger, is far from over.
Let's go to the question of whether it's time to cut interest rates on the American people. First of all, Bill, if given the great success of President Trump's efforts to cut much better tariff deals with our trading partners, so for the first time, we have trade agreements with our trading partners that benefit them but also benefit us, has caused an extraordinary surge in federal revenues. In June, for the first time in 15 years, the federal government actually ran a surplus. This is, of course, after all of the economic elites predicted that if Donald Trump pursued his efforts to renegotiate tariff deals with our trading partners, that we would have runaway inflation, we would have a stock market would crash, unemployment would surge, and of course, none of those things have happened. In fact, just the opposite has happened. I saw Claire McCaskill, the former U.S. Senator from Missouri, on MSNBC the other night. By the way, if her IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water her like a plant. But she said that the whole Epstein controversy was an effort to cover up the fact that we have a collapsing economy. What planet does this woman live on, Bill?
It's crazy. They're not looking at data. They're looking at Trump derangement syndrome. It really is a sickness. And here you have what are supposed to be very sophisticated people saying all kinds of nonsense about stuff that doesn't exist. We were told, if you recall, all throughout COVID about, numbers and data and follow the science. Yet when you have something like this, they don't follow the data. They don't follow the science. They just follow their hatred for our great president. So it's really a scam, and it needs to change. And hopefully the Federal Reserve Chairman does something and does something soon. But I'm not too optimistic. And I think that, as I said, let's say he's got a lot of work that he's going to have ahead of him. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, Bill, what would happen if we got a rate cut in the interest rates tomorrow?
Well, obviously it would be good, but, he's too late. He's too late, Powell. It's too late. He should have cut a long, long time ago. He cut right before the election to help Kamala Harris. That didn't get her anywhere. And so now you have a situation where you have an economy that is doing good, but could be doing way better. And as you know, I oversee a lot of the housing and mortgage stuff in the country. And I can tell you firsthand, people can't afford homes. And a lot of it has to do with the mortgage payments. I mean, these mortgage payments are very, very prohibitive, and so much unnecessarily so. President Trump, like you said, he's crushed inflation. He's just absolutely kicked you-know-what on tariffs. And it's time that the Federal Reserve do their part. And frankly, I think that Jay Powell's legacy is getting worse by the day. And it's very sad, whether it's on the fraud behavior or whether it's on just some of this mismanagement stuff.
It is indeed difficult, as we see Americans struggling with their car payments, struggling with their mortgage payments, struggling to get by.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
No, he's a financial
guy. He thinks he's so arrogant. He thinks he's so smart. He thinks he doesn't need to look at the data, and he knows better than everybody. And him and his academics all sit there and act like they're better than our great president. It's disgusting, and it needs to change.
What's really amazing is he's not even an economist. He's a lawyer. He knows nothing about this. He's never built anything in his life. The level of arrogance is offensive, I think, to the American people. All right, I want to thank our guest, Bill Pulte, who is leading the charge to actually enforce the mortgage laws in this country. And FHFA refers thousands of people for mortgage fraud. It's just the important, prominent ones that you hear about. The crimes have been identified in the cases of Adam Schiff, Letitia James, or Lisa Cook. Other people have been prosecuted and paid a high penalty for breaking these laws. So when you read the fake news editorials saying that this is weaponization or that these charges are not accurate, I urge you to go online and look the documents up yourself, and you'll find that Bill Pulte is doing an amazing job of enforcing the law and telling the American people the truth. Chairman Pulte, thank you so much for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show.